So there's a question of how did Hip Hop Humpday come about, and everyone has a different perspective, a different story. I want to share my perspective on that one first because, like I said, I was actually living in Dallas from summer of '97 until early July of '99. And two friends of mine, one I went back to fourth grade with, and the other one who had been, functioning as a DJ in our crew called Relax. We've been together making music and performing and not really releasing much, but plenty of performing and connecting to all these different folks around town while I was a college student. And so 2 years after moving back to Dallas, they called really excited about all this groundwork they'd done at this spot called the Mercury with Mark Collins, which I'd visited and I'd performed there before with the group and with some of everybody that I knew, certainly all of y'all, before leaving. But they said, we got this whole thing set up and there's these musicians and it's just going, you can just freestyle if you want to, but it's about to be a big deal. And they called it and they said, you need to get down here. So I moved back down here the day before. I moved back down here July 21st of 1999. July 22nd of 1999, we started, and it was this kind of free-for-all. There was a number of MCs, and what you're seeing now is kind of, I guess, in many ways, the core, but there's so many other people that are not here on stage with us at this time who either started with us, were important, or finished with us. So that needs to be said. But from my perspective, the way it came about was Jay and Sheldon, who were close friends of mine, had a vision for just allowing the scene to become a mushroom cloud in downtown Austin and being a resource to a whole lot of people. And specifically, Sheldon was amazing at articulating that vision, that he didn't want anybody to own it, but he wanted everybody to be able to come into this place and be able to get something out of it. And so we went into Hip Hop Humpday as a group. Shortly after it started, Jay wasn't even there no more because he didn't feel like freestyling. That wasn't his bag, And before you knew it, there was a wide range of musicians, etc., who were pouring into this thing. We didn't even start with the name Hip Hop Humpday. I don't even know exactly when that came about. But if you ask me how it started, I would say it started with the vision of those two guys in association with Mark Collins and the Collins family that had the Mercury, which is a couple of blocks down the street from the parish on 6th Street, same block as Flamingo Cantina. And it just became almost like a open, next to Casino El Camino, and it became sort of an open source, a nexus, if you will, by design. And what started as Relax Crew dissolved itself into something much, 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 much bigger. That's how I would say that it started, was the vision of those two guys being very selfless and very forward thinking and very open to the possibilities of what all kinds of folks could contribute. That's my version of how it came about. What do y'all think? How did it come about?
Man, I know when I got involved with, we call it Hump Day now, but at that time it didn't even have a name. It was just like a Wednesday thing. And before I got into it, I would go check it out.
Yeah, you were there on time.
Yeah, I was even before I was in it, I was there on time. And I would just sit in and just watch, because I remember at the time, like I had released the record, I had released Lost Scriptures, and I did my record release party there, and because it was already jumping, it was already people. I had posters. Y'all let me put a poster, and it was just the love that I felt there. It got up and rhymed, and then I think that night, me and you had a discussion about what I want to come back on a regular basis and be part of this thing. Like how Sheldon sold it to you. He sold it to me like, this could be really dope. It could be really big. I think it'd be good for the town. You knew that I was like a staple in the town, and you're like, this would be dope. So that's how I got into it. But just by me going and just watching it as an outsider and being just a participant occasionally in the beginning, showed me how dope it was. Like, I wasn't those people who's like, I think it's dope because I helped start it. It was already going on. We all just added our own vibes and our own energy to it, and everybody was hand selected for a particular reason for what they do to bring that energy to it. And so, like I said, after I did my record release there, I was like, yo, I'm down. because that was just so much love for me to go in there and put my posters up everywhere and just just show that love for me, man. So like I appreciate that, but that's what I remember from the early, and that was like '99, so it was shortly after it started that I got into it. So
absolutely. What's the origin story? How did it come about from your perspective?
My story was similar to T's. I was actually working. I was working night shift. I was working split shift over at AMD at that time period. And so when I came down to Hump Day, it was on my lunch break, about 11:30 at night. I would leave AMD, come down to the Mercury, and I think I watched the first time or two that I came through. Second, after that, I would sit in for a bit. You would invite me to sit in for a little bit. And there was one night in particular where, and you were telling me, man, hey, just come through. You can come through, do your thing. There was this one night in particular where the old Mercury, we had one mic.
Wow.
And at a certain point during this particular night, the energy was such where we just put the mic on the stand and we passed. That was the first time we did this, what we call 4 bars and pass. Freestyle, 4 bars, the next MC counts it, knows when it's coming, and they know when to come in, they know when to stop. Next MC. So at the original Mercury, we had one mic and we stood in a line right behind each other. And the first person dropped 4 bars and immediately got out the way. The next person came up, 4 bars, move, 4 bars, move, 4 bars, move. And the 3 of us did it. I think Garrison was probably in that cycle as well, but it was just a whirlwind. 4 MCs, 4 bars, freestyling without breaking a lick. And it was at the end of that night where I remember sitting down with Vu after that night, Vu and T, and it was like, yo, I think we might need to move forward with this, and really, this might be the crew right here. And so that's when I started coming every week. At that point, it was that 4 bar pass on one mic. It's still just kind of whoa. We did that
That
night.
became our trademark too.
Wow. That became the trademark. Yeah.
And D, you were involved in this coming about before any of us were. I didn't even live here. How did this come about from your perspective as the guy who could play the bathroom doors at the Mercury? Play anything in the Mercury. The beer bottles, like, how did this come about from your perspective?
Well, actually, in the old Mercury, I used to see Rudy and Sheldon play together first. And I never really gave it much thought until I kept going, and then next thing I know, I'm in the office with Mark Collins, and he asked me if I wanted, he gave me this idea, asked me if I wanted to be the drummer for this, idea, to play hip hop and do, just with these, with those guys, and then next thing I knew, I said, okay, because. It was cool because I mean, watching those two, like watching him and Rudy, I was thinking, man, that's a badass concept. And then, and I once it was over, and then I wound up going into Mark's office, and he was like, "Gee, you need to play drums for this." And then it just, that's kind of how it happened with me. I didn't even know this was going to turn into something like this. But I have a hell of an imagination. I was thinking this could go far, and it did. Considering the time length of the time that we did it, we did go far with it. I mean, few years of coming up with stuff every single night on a Wednesday night, using your brain to come up with. Just stuff all the time on a regular basis. That's why I'm able to come up with anything now at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
It made. I have so much music now because of this project. Like I don't. It reminds me every time I'm like, somebody says, "D, play something." I just quick drum and growl. So that's pretty much what happened with me. Of course, you and Relax, I used to come see y'all. I remember when I met you, Lou. I remember Jay, and I was like, man. I remember when we were doing it when we started doing it at the time. I remember when Jay used to come up behind me sometimes and like rap in my ear or something about something while I was playing drums. I'd be like, damn, that's dope. What's he gonna like? He would just come on. I don't know. You know, he had a way of doing that to me. For whatever reason, he did it a lot. But it was cool. I liked him. I mean, I like, you know, that was, Relax was definitely a good. I like watching that, sir.
Right on. And that goes deep, because I was new to Texas right after Jordan Worthy, North Carolina beat Georgetown. So that was 1982 NCAA Finals. My family moved from DC to Texas.
Wow.
And first day of school, some dude's trying to cheat off my test. And it's Jay.
Wow.
But he paid me back because he was writing rhymes and I wasn't.
Right.
And he let me use some of his rhymes for us to go to my house and record. So he paid me back.
Cool.
And flash forward however many years, and you know, I guess 1999 was probably 15 years after that, and Hump Day, and then he just kind of faded into the sunset.
Didn't I book Relax for South by Southwest?
You did book Relax for South by Southwest at Emos Junior. Absolutely, with Company Flow. Yep. So there's a lot of intersections, and I remember hearing a lot about you, D, before coming back and then visiting on occasion and getting to meet you. So let's take a pause.
Yeah, for the cause.